I mentioned earlier that I wanted to talk about the movie Fehérlófia. I think that's how you pronounce it, after it was a few stills from the movie showed up in my Pinterest feed last week, and I was taken in by the bright colors and wanted to learn a little bit more, and found some places where I could watch it for free, and loved it so much that I wanted to do something with it. You know, a part of art, whether that is in creating something or reacting to the creation itself, is the transformative effect it has on us or within us, you know, and what we then do with that. So yeah, I wanted to talk a bit about this movie for those who may be interested, who have never seen it, or who have seen it, and perhaps, you know, I can offer some of my own insight of, you know, what I took from it. And I have my computer here because I had to take a few notes because there was a lot that I wanted to cover. So let's see here if I'm, you know, going back and forth here. That is why. Let's see. So we said the best works of art need little, if not no explanation of all, right? They simply speak for themselves by their mere existence or what they exhibit without having to speak. This is why symbol is so important, not only in recognizing the symbols around us in the world and everyday lives, but how they also represent our internal world, our own inner nature or landscape in body, mind, and soul, and the heart space shared through and with many minds in thought and emotion. Okay. Yes, that was our first point. Pretty succinct. We're not. So I have a tendency, this is all in bullet points, right? We have like, 6 different points here. We have a tendency to expound a little too much, you know, but we get a certain thought or idea and we're like, we just keep running with it. But there are certain things that we might want to touch on a bit more as we go through here. So one of the main themes is the hero's journey, which we see in a lot of different films throughout the course of time and throughout many genres. It's a similar schematic, plot that people use to kind of frame or reference their stories around. And it's a good one. It's a timeless one. It very much explains a lot of the unexplainable, if you will. It can be related to the alchemical process and inner divine union through symbol, color, and shape. Not only in this movie, other movies as well, but I think this one, the way that it's done is very in your face, I guess, where in other movies, let's say you have like a strictly action movie with actors and not just voice actors, but humans who are playing a role and not like just voices dubbed over an animation. Certain symbols that you would then put in filming a movie that way wouldn't always be as obvious as an animation, perhaps. But even in animation, and particularly this one, where a lot of the different scenes kind of blend and blur the lines. And I ended up going through and taking a bunch of stills myself and uploading them to my own Pinterest. Some of the like key points throughout the story that really stood out to me, that I liked a lot, or that I just really enjoyed, like the color to it, or like certain symbols that stood out. One of them in particular, well, I guess there's a lot, yeah, but there's the one part where the 3 brothers interlocked their arms, and it created like the triangle symbol within the circle, which is known famously for being a symbol of alchemy. And then there is even later on in the movie with one of the final bosses that he has to battle, one of the beasts. I forget which one it is. I want to say it was the second one. But as it's coming closer and it like zooms into the face and into the eyes, or just like really close into it, there's a very brief, it's only like a split-second clip where Saturn reveals itself in pixelated form. And so we quick snapped that as a still too. I don't know how many people would have noticed that, but I just thought that was very interesting as well, as far as Saturn's role in the alchemical process. So yeah, symbol, color, shape, divine union, alchemical, blah, 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 blah. So this mirrors and exemplifies sacred geometry, the mathematics of God or the universe, and how everything is born and formed from the one, the original, the source of all things, and our eternal longing to return home to our true self, the seat of our soul, spirit, which is in union with God, universe, creator of all things, or just in union with the one, with the divine, with ourself, with the world around us. Whenever I talk about these things and even write about them, we haven't, oh my God, there's the heron. Oh, wait a minute, quick. There he goes. You seen him? Okay. Just, he had to interrupt, and so we had to give him his little spotlight, his little moment. Okay. Yeah, whenever we have talked about these things or written about them in the past, there are moments in time when we have referenced the importance of not getting too attached or caught up on any certain terminology when we talk about these things. I know that different words and names and speaking on certain deities or figures or belief systems, particularly when it comes to religion or spirituality, can be very triggering for many different people for a variety of reasons, but particularly like the word God. I know for people who have been hurt or harmed or shamed by religious figures in their life or institutions, then I understand why those things can be triggering. But ultimately, whatever words we decide to use do not constitute or do not make up the wholeness of what any particular being or deity or belief that we have is. And I think that's a very important distinction for each of us to make. And, hopefully at some point we all do. But I know that can be hard depending on, how we were raised, brought up, how we were taught things. And it can be hard to reframe our minds and our belief systems when we are so used to or accustomed to certain ways of thinking. But just, another point. And we've found that we've had to kind of reiterate that a lot over time, more so. So I don't want to skip out on that here again, especially as we're moving forward with things here. But just a little side note. The names don't matter so much. It's all the same thing. Okay, the one. So, yeah, so in this movie, there's a use of multiple shades of all colors, but they use the primary basics or the foundation of most colors, which is red, blue, and yellow, which we would have learned, back in art class. You mix red and blue, you get purple. You mix red and yellow, you get orange. You mix blue and yellow, you get green, right? And then you ended up having the whole color wheel. And the whole rainbow, essentially. And then, you mix white and black to lighten them, darken them. You can start using what secondary, tertiary colors. You can create all kinds of beautiful hues then. And I love the way that the movie exemplifies that. Yeah, there's an increase in shades of colors and vibrancy of colorization as it incorporates and integrates the rainbow over time. We see this in the men, in the brothers, and how, let's see, there's the one scene when they're, after they all get together and they're setting off on their journey together, and there's like strips of color under them as they're walking. There's like one red, orange, and yellow, which I thought was interesting because it can symbolize the lower energy centers, whether that be like our root, sacral, or solar plexus, and how, there's some who would say that there can be this need to transcend or rise above our lower physical body, or understanding our nature of our existence beyond the third dimensional material realm to develop and integrate the whole body or eternal self soul, which helps us to have a deeper understanding of ourselves in relation to the world around us. So there's a fly fisher coming up. I'm also like really out of breath, maybe because I'm like hunched over here in the corner and I need fresh air, but I didn't want to keep the window open because then it's a little too loud and we already have the raindrops pouring down. But anyways, and we do feel a little rushed. I'm like, it's going on 6 p.m. and I still have to go run one errand, go pick up some groceries, and then we wanted to go home. We still wanted to walk in the rain if we can. We've already taken a couple walks today, but I'm like, more. Yeah, and then we have like stuff to do at home, cleaning up, laundry away, yada, 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 whatever. Today, Sundays are our beginning of our week for us, so this is our first work day. And even though we only worked for 2 hours, I still, I keep myself busy. So, and one of the things we did was, write about this lovely movie. So, when we talk about the third dimension or the way that we experience the earth or the world around us and relationships, if we keep it on that material realm of what we see and hear by just only what is in front of us, only what is showing up in our immediate reality, there's nothing inherently wrong with living that way. And certainly there are many people who do, but at the same time, right, even if unconsciously, there is a lot more going on in the background in the ways that we are connected, not only to ourself and our own higher nature, to things like our heart space. Here would be coming in, right above the solar would be our heart. And so this would be connecting to our emotions and our higher will in terms of like free will, and then our connections to other people in love. Because below the heart, in the lower realm, the material realm, it would kind of signify a sense of lovelessness, you know, or like if you had a relationship with yourself or with anybody where the heart was not existing in that place, you could be connecting to them through your root, you know, through very basic material things in the world, whether that be through work and business, through sex, for example, right? Connecting to the sacral as well. We can gain confidence in material items and certain amounts of material wealth through those energy centers and through relationships tied to them. But without the heart attached to it, we are missing out on, you know, kind of the, I would say, like greater things in life that help us to feel loved, not just like we're giving of ourselves without ever receiving anything back, but that we're also feeling a sense of fulfillment in our life. Whether or not we believe in having a soul's purpose, at the end of the day, I do believe that each one of us wants to both love and be loved reciprocally, in reciprocity. How would you say that? In a healthy manner where we're giving and taking with people who can love us well, who can love us in the right way, and who won't harm us. And so this is the importance of connecting to our own heart space and to the higher energy centers and to, you know, our own higher self or inner knowing, our intuition, our connection to what is beyond seeing and feeling beyond what is just immediately in front of us. And so whether that is a person connecting to God or to a deity or, you know, certain belief systems, whatever it may be, even if that is believing in nothing or being uncertain, there is still a sense of the self, unless, you know, we see ourselves as absolutely nothing, which can be a part of the journey as well, you know, feeling a sense of like apathy or nothingness, you know, connection to all things and nothing at the same time. That can be a part of it, but ultimately we're not living out of that state all the time. So anyways, back to what we were talking about here. We get a little carried away, but that's what we wanted, right? We didn't want to just go off our points here. Yes, so the lower energy centers, the need to transcend, blah, 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 blah. Integrating, welcoming wholeness. Yeah, so we noticed this as far as the colors go with both the men and the women. So there were the three brothers, and then as they go about their journey and they make it to the castles in the end and defeating the monsters, the beast, we come across the character or the female archetype and her own broken or fragmented nature between the three different female figures, right? And the first one that we come across in the movie is like the most seductive of them all. And I find this scene very interesting because you can see the discomfort and even like maybe a little bit of like horror on the protagonist's face when he first comes across her, because she's just like bare chested. She's very full bodied and she's like very provocative in her movements and the way that she's acting towards him. And, you know, talking about how like their husbands are on their way, whatever, but it's just like the main character is like, his face is so funny to me. So yes, the fragmented woman split into her own lower nature and represented by more seductive energy, leading up to the representation of the height of the three, defended by a 12-headed beast, which also mirrors the woman and the dragon in Revelation and Christianity, which is in itself a story older than time. It's shared amongst many spiritual belief systems, and the tale throughout different books and texts is told a little bit differently, but a lot of them have the same symbolism and same imagery. And the numbers play a big role here, sacred geometry, yada, 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 right? It talks about the 12 animals, and I think they were like, what, cows or heifers? I forget exactly. Bull, maybe? I don't know. You know, it's like a representation of a sacred animal or something that is holy, needing a sacrifice. Again, same theme amongst all the things, whatever. 12 animals needed to feed the final creature in order to escape the underworld, to ascend and reunite with the men and the women, his brothers and then sisters, you could say on one hand, or simply these representations of the other aspects of the self, and return to a state of wholeness. So there are, different scenes in the movie. One in particular, when they form the alchemical ring and triangle with each other, where you see the different brothers kind of melding together. They're like twisting and turning. And there's even the part when they show like their wrists being slit and they go across the triangle each twice, I think, like filling it out almost as in like a blood pact, if you will. And so they, join in this spiritual or soulful sense where they are like becoming one. And at the end of that little scene, you see the main protagonist, his head first, and then there is like the head of each brother on the left and right of him who like slowly come out from the side, and they're all like holding on to each other, and it just together, 3 in 1. Yeah. And then I don't know why I'm so out of breath. It is a bit warm in here, but yeah, and we're trying to get through this kind of quickly. It's only been 16 minutes, but yeah, we've kept a bit of a pace, so I could probably attribute it to that. So talking about the fragmented man and the fragmented woman, right? And how it's like split into these 3 parts that resemble a one for both of them. This can kind of resemble internal family systems, where in internal family systems, it's talking about the way that we would parent ourselves or take care of ourselves through just that, like as a family. So even if, in our own stories and life, if one or both of our parents or whoever was our caregiver did not necessarily love or treat us in the best manner, that we weren't equipped throughout life to handle things in the best way, to learn how to self-regulate our emotions and to just live day to day in a healthy manner. There is this idea of being able to teach ourselves to learn how to do that through mothering or fathering ourselves. And there are many different ways that we can look at this and that this can be done. I have talked a little bit in the past about like the importance of being your own best friend, for example, when it comes to things like self-love. We hear thrown around a lot, but that just because we hear people saying that we should love ourselves, if there's not practical application on how to do that, especially beyond again, those material things of like, take a bubble bath, go read a book, go lay in the sun. Like these can all be helpful tools, but they're not really getting to the root of what we need. And so it's important to discover what our needs are in order to meet them on the deepest level so that we can continue to grow and heal and evolve. But one of the things, right, as we're talking about internal family systems here then, and the different male and female archetypes, 3 in 1 thing, for women over time, there has been the maiden mother crone archetype, which we have also referenced before. And I had this conversation with one of my male friends a while back, and he was like, what is it for men though? And I was like, I don't necessarily know that there has been an equivalent discussed as much, if you will, but there are certain ways that we can look at this. Because maiden mother crone is often associated with witchcraft, which is a more modern take or view of its original meaning. But other ways that we can look at this would be like in forms of the tarot, right? It would be like a page to a prince to a knight, king, emperor, and then a high priest or hierophant. And then with, the female figures, a princess, queen, empress, high priestess. Or to simplify the entire thing would be child, parent, elder. So then it's like completely taken away the sex of it, neither male nor female. It's just our child, parent, elder. And then, identifying in ourselves, what that is or what that looks like, where we're at any given moment. And so when we hear certain terms thrown around as far as like our inner child, I think that is more often referenced nowadays, even though it's still not necessarily widely known or talked about or practiced. There would also be an inner parent or inner elder is the way I would, think of it. And so in any given moment, it's looking at in what state would I be in this particular moment, and what am I needing, and how do I meet that need for myself. So particularly when we think, and as far as our healing journey goes, in moments where we're feeling particularly triggered in any given situation, then it's most often tied to our inner child, places where we were not properly prepared, or that we were wounded in such a way that trigger is then being hit again, and we need to go back to look at what caused that wound, why it's there, and how we can patch that up so that we don't continue being triggered by it over time. And that is possible. I know for some people, especially if we've been stuck in certain cycles for a long time or being triggered by the same things over and over again, then it can feel maybe not as possible, or we might not necessarily always know how to go about doing that. Right there is an example, right? It's like taking deep breaths. Anytime I feel overwhelmed, or like, I'm getting on a bit of a roll right now because I'm trying to get through this so that I can finish out, the rest of the things I want to do today here. Anytime that we feel ourselves starting to get overwhelmed, overstimulated, or just like a little bit out of alignment of like, this is exactly what I want right now, or this isn't how I want to feel, or something feels off about this, it doesn't feel right, it feels wrong, I don't like this. Being able to stop ourselves in that moment and take a breath, take a step back, walk away, whatever it is, to, have a moment, just tend to ourselves, whether that is our thoughts or emotions that are feeling out of whack, being able to pause. I think taking a pause, taking a break is one of the best tools out of all of them. It can save us a lot of heartbreak and hurt, and, not only preventing ourselves from being hurt or certain things exacerbating themselves, but also in our reactions or responses to others. So, okay, this isn't all about IFS, but I think that plays a role in this as well. So that is all of our 6 main points that we wrote down here. And we are getting a bit later in time. It's been 23 minutes. So I think we're going to wrap this up here. Yeah, overall, I love movies and films. I mentioned briefly before about how sheltered I was growing up, and so I've seen a lot. We were raised very much by screens, TV, and the music, and some other things, a little bit of video games, not so much computer until I, got a little bit older, but I have an appreciation for various forms of art, as many of us do, and when I find certain films or pieces of art in particular that, resonate on a certain level for me, and incorporate a lot of different things that I enjoy and that I feel like are great examples of what art is just overall, like going back to our first point about how some of the best art are things that utilize a lot of symbolism and speak to us in a way, not so much through their words, but through what we're seeing and what we're feeling while viewing it. And, you know, apart from movies, that goes for anything, whether that is a painting, a drawing, a book we're reading, a song we're listening to. All of it kind of comes down to how those things make us feel, how they resonate with us on a personal level, and how they also connect us to the people around us and the world around us. And I think that this movie did a really great job of doing that. And it's got a beautiful use of colors. And it feels really good. There are some moments that, you know, could be considered a little creepy, maybe, or may not be appropriate for all younger audiences, depending on, you know, what you know, deem is appropriate. But I think it's a wonderful movie. And, you know, I think it would be great for different teaching classes. And I mean, it is on, let's see, it's Eternal Family. I mentioned this in my short earlier. Eternal Family is an app that you can sign up for, a 7-day free trial, and then it's only $10 a month that you can watch this movie on. It has subtitles in English since the original movie is Hungarian. And then the other app is Canopy with a K, that you can view it if you have a library card or you're a student at a participating university. Yeah, so if you're interested at all, if you sat through this and, you know, might be a little inkling of what's that about, then I would go check it out. At least at the time of recording this, those are options. I don't know if it'll always be there, but yes, wonderful movie, beautiful. That's all. All right. Have a good day.